Well, we will be, and I'm sure that we are, and we'll make it greener, Gene. But, you know, can I talk into that? And I'll definitely make sure that we are a part of that.
I think you already are.
But, you know, I think, well, again, I'm sure we are because we love you and we're behind God and America and Gene Bailey and the Flashpoint Army. But here's what I think with that chapter. I just want to say this before we get into tonight. You know, I was thinking about Ezekiel 37, where there was a moment where God began to declare a prophetic word through a prophet Ezekiel. And he told him to prophesy to a valley that were full of dry bones or full of bones. And he commanded them to live, and then skin came upon it. And as a result, they became an exceedingly great army. Now, here's what I believe. I believe the chapters are the bones that are coming alive. And it needs to. It's going to awaken our nation. The skin is the people that are gathering together around the structure, the bones. And remember what happened in Ezekiel 37. There was a noise, there was a shaking, and there was a coming together. And that is what is needed right now in this great nation that ultimately will be a great army, that I believe that the gates of hell will not be able to prevail against it. And some of the nonsense and the chaos and the conflicts that we have seen is not going to be able to have its measure of pursuit against really the unified purpose of God. And I think these chapters are the bones. I think the people are the skin, and I believe it's the movement and the shaking and the noise that's going to raise up a tremendous army as we take our country back. So I just want to encourage people to do that. Do it right now. Let's be a part of that. So, Gene, this is tremendous. So thank you.
It is, and we're, as you can tell, we're excited about it because this is what we've been waiting for. It's taken us a long time to get the infrastructure set up, and we're still tweaking it. So if those of you that have signed up and you haven't heard anything yet, just hang on. We're getting all of it together, and then we'll be communicating back to you. So get ready for that. All right. So, Pastor Hank, let's dive into this. We'll start here with what you've been talking about. I'm just going to start, and I want you to kind of walk us through. Are we still going through a shift change in America?
Yeah, we are, and I want to precede something that's very, very interesting. We have to go back, first of all, to March 15th of 2020, and I've been sharing it since I've been here on Flashpoint for almost 6 years now. And it was when I was caught up in a vision over the earth, and I heard the authoritative voice of the Lord declare divine resets, divine reversals. And when God spoke that, a shaft of light hit the earth, Gene, and I saw the United States specifically where this shaft hit. Now, it's going to affect the whole earth, but I believe that God's purpose is to set the United States up so that it can begin to spill out over the earth. And the Lord said, divine resets, divine reversals. And then he began to declare that we were coming into a whole new era, a new season. Now, to answer what you just said, we are in a shift change. I was walking in my house a few months before the Charlie Kirk moment that happened in September, and I heard the Spirit of the Lord say, shift, change. He said, this is where we're heading. There's a shift, there's a change, and it's in process. Now, here's where we have to be very, very, very discerning, and we also need to cooperate with God. When Israel went through 3.5 years of a harsh season, right? There was no dew, no rain. It was a famine. It was a very harsh time, right? We're seeing gas prices rising. We're seeing wars in the earth. It would be easy for us to not believe that things are going to shift and to change. And that is something that we have to be very much guard against, because the prophet comes along, Elijah, and he says, not so. There is a noise. There is something of heaven that has come to the earth at this time. And there's the noise of it that I hear as a prophetic vessel. This is what Elijah was saying. And he said, I hear the sound of a shift change. I hear the sound of an abundance of rain. 2 Kings chapter 6, man, it was so bad, right? They were dove's dung. They were eating donkey's head. They were boiling babies. And the prophet once again says, look, there is something new coming. There is a shift and a change. And by the time, this time tomorrow, there's a divine acceleration coming. Things will begin to change. Gene, this is where we're heading, and this is why I'm excited that you have this vessel on tonight, because I believe that we're going to show a prophetic pattern of something that happened at Tim Sheets' church when I was prophesying there. He brought Dutch and I and some other ones in and said, just, it's not a preaching time, but bring the word of the Lord. And the word of the Lord that God spoke that night, and even through this vessel as well as others were speaking, was the word Renaissance. And it's the word that means new. Now, here's what's amazing. Can God use a secular man? We often talk about Cyrus, who was a secular figure in the Bible, Isaiah 45. Many have said it coincides with President Trump, right? The 45th presidency. Well, here's the thing. Trump has been saying out of his mouth, make America great again. But then he started saying, we're in a golden age. We're in a golden era. And what I don't think he realized is he was prophesying what the definition of Renaissance is. That's what Dutch Sheets broke it down and said Renaissance is a golden era, a golden age. Now, before we get into these prophecies, because it talks about Renaissance, may I set this up for just a moment out of the spiritual side, but also the natural? Because right now, Gene, there is what Ezekiel 12 says. There's 3 types of things that are happening in the earth right now when it comes to information and disinformation. God sends a prophet Isaiah into a time when there was a proverb that was in the land. People are like, hey, man, nothing new is going to happen. Hank, I don't believe Renaissance. I can hear people saying that. Well, don't you know we're in war? Don't you know things are in chaos? Gas prices are high, blah, blah, blah. Isaiah had to be sent by God, just as this vessel and others are being sent to prophesy into this. And he said there's a proverb that people are saying the prophecies are failing. They're taking forever. It's not working. And God says, listen, the reason being is you're listening to wrong prophecies. God said they're vain, prophetic perspectives, outlook, utterances. And that's really what's happening. We have a lot of, podcasters, influencers, right, that are throwing misinformation, disinformation out there. They're acting as prophetic vessels, right, or they're becoming the mouthpiece of the devil. And that's the second thing that God said. He said you're not only caught up in vain prophecies, but you're caught up in divination. You're caught up in, you are pulling from the prince of the power of the air, the agenda of hell, and you are declaring it and you're believing it more than you're believing the words that have come from God. So he said, I've sent Isaiah to declare that the visions that I say shall come to pass, and I declare a new thing unto you. Isaiah 43:19. Behold, a new thing. Well, that's the word Renaissance, golden age, new. Now, here's what I want to say to the people as we proceed. If you look at in the spirit, Gene, and even in the natural, the history of our country, before you could have a Renaissance or a new, it always proceeded with 2 things primarily: war/conflict and transition that ultimately led to the Renaissance. All right, look at Jesus. He had to come and literally, in the spirit, make a public display out of the devil in hell, make an embarrassment, strip him of all authority and power, take away the keys to death, hell, and the grave. So there's your war, your conflict, right? Think about what was happening in Jerusalem when Jesus marched in on the one side of the city. Pilate was countering under the orders of Rome and Herod and Caesar. And there was a great conflict. It was great turmoil that was happening at that time of Palm Sunday. But then there was a transitional period that ultimately brought a Renaissance, a new covenant. That's what Jesus said, right? He said, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth is the way you used to do it, but I say unto you a new covenant, a new command. So you see the pattern. War, conflict, transition. That's why it's a shift change into the new. Look at the United States of America. When we had our time of independence, we had to fight for it. We had to have a revolution. We had to have, which is a purposeful overthrow. In that case, it was a purposeful overthrow of Great Britain. Today, it's a revolution of light. It's a purposeful overthrow of darkness. That's why you're seeing exposures, right? That's why you're seeing war with Iran. It's not that Trump's just being a warmonger. God is setting us up with these wars and conflicts, right, to transition us into the new. Now, you have to remember, John the Baptist was a child born in transition. He was not part of the Old Testament. He was not part of the New. But he was a child or a prophet that was sent in transition to take them from the conflict that the earth had been in, right? And bring them through a period that would lead up into the new covenant. So this is where we're at today, where once again we've got wars. Once again, we've got conflicts. We are in a time of shift change, transition, but there's a grace. That's what John the Baptist's name means. It means grace. There's a grace that's going to carry us into the new. That's why don't look at the gas prices. Don't look at the fake news. Don't look at all the bad and the darkness that's happening, because even the Renaissance era of history was also called the Dark Ages. There was a 100-year war between England and France, then later into the Italian wars that ultimately led a new expression of Renaissance, a new season that came upon the earth at that time. So this is where God is heading us. So I want to just lay that out before we get into these.
Yeah, it's great. All right, so
tonight.
New season, and I think we're all up for that in a new era. So let me go. I'll just get us started, and you can comment here. Let's go to
sure.
September 20th, 2007. Now, I want our audience to remember this is what is that? 19 years ago. I tell you, I will change the nation of Iran. I will open my hands to Iran and begin to move my hands to the left and to the right, and a great separation shall begin to take place. You can stop right there and go, well, that's happening right now. And a sound of youth shall begin to arise, and a revolution shall begin to take place. A regime change will begin to take place in the nation of Iran. That's happening. I'll begin to raise up a movement of youth who shall say they forsake Allah and worship Jesus Christ. Do you believe this shall come to the land of the East? I love the fact that you guys keep such good records, because we can go back and go, okay, that was 19 years ago. So those of you, listen, this is a great stop. Let me pause right here. You want to understand, you can go to that website, Prophetic Perspectives, there at Hank and Brenda, to look at all of these prophetic words. But I want to recommend you get this book, the Throne Room Prophecy book. You can get it. There it is on the screen. We have them in stock to understand what prophetic words are about, and how to spot the right vessel, the wrong vessel, how to understand it. Is there a time limit on words? All that Pastor Hank covers. So let's pick it back up. Pastor Hank, 19 years ago, the regime changed, and we're definitely seeing that. When you look at this, what comes to your memory when you see this word?
Well, I was seeing this back in 2007, and I didn't understand it because, again, in those days, man, Ayatollah was a tyrant, brutal tyrant, and we were seeing a lot of, pockets of Islamic extremists that were, attacking not only different things with the United States, but even around the world. And it didn't seem like there would be a new thing, right? A renaissance that would happen in Iran. And Gene, to your point, I want to look at the next one, slide 2. Slide over now. What is it? 12 years now from that prophecy as a refresher. And I like it because God is laying it out. This is March 17th of 2019. So I remember seeing it, and I was like, Lord, it seems too good to be true. But now God again tells us to keep our eyes upon the Mideast, for there shall be great disruptions that shall arise in a place of Iran, and there'll be protests that seek to disrupt, interrupt. And this is my plan, to oust an old regime and bring a new regime to Iran, that my footprint, now watch this, and the footprint of the United States will be upon you, Iran, in a way that history has never seen or known before. Well, that's Renaissance. If it's never happened before, it's Renaissance. It's new. So God was prophesying in this. And he said, I'm going to do this because of the persecuted who cry out day and night. Now, this is something that I think people need to understand. When Renaissance or the new happens, that's Matthew 9:33. I mean, they said that about Jesus. We have never so seen this in all of Israel. Well, here's the question we have to ask ourselves. Can we once again say that about America, Australia, Canada, Cuba, Iran? We have never so seen this, because it has the mark of God. It has the God factor that ultimately brings it from conflict, from war, into the new. You know, Gene, we have people that quote Matthew 24, and they say, we're in the end times. Well, even the end times reveal this pattern that I'm talking about. The disciples say, Jesus, show us, when is the end? And Jesus says, excuse me, there's going to be wars, and there's going to be rumors of wars, but it's not yet. Okay, what are we seeing in the earth right now? Wars. We're seeing, you know, rumors of wars. And then, here's the thing. Now, watch transition. Because he then goes on and says, listen, there's going to be nation that rises against nation, right? Men are going to, love of many will wax cold. Many will be offended. Well, that's conflicts. That's the culture that brings chaos and conflict, right? But he said, hey, man, this is the beginning of a transitional period here. You're in birth pains. But where's it heading? Matthew 24, verse 14, the new. He said, this gospel, this good news, this new covenant of the kingdom shall be preached. It's a renaissance. And it will be as a witness, in other words, accompanied by the glory of God, a witness, and then the end shall come. So this is where we're heading in this time. Wars, conflicts, transitional into renaissance. And so when you're looking at these prophecies, you can see that God is setting us up for this renaissance moment. Now I want to look at the ones as we move about Iran. Gene, what about this one? I think we should look at slide 5. This is more of a recent one, and this was just a few days before, when Iran was bombed. I don't know if you want to read it. You want me to read it? I'll leave it up to you.
Listen to me now, for you'll hear in the days to come concerning Iran that the eagle has landed upon Iran. I speak at this time, says the Spirit of God, because do not think that it is the might, the military, the maneuvers, and the strategies of your armory. For you'll see the eagle shall arise. I speak of the nation. Do not be alarmed, as things will fill the sky, and there will be strike, strike, strike. There will be. Listen to me now, says the Lord. I need you to pray, for the eagle shall land, and I shall ride upon the expression of this nation concerning Iran. And I will place my feet, but I will use the eagle to dig its claw and remove the ancient regime that has been there. Now, here's what's interesting to me before you comment. What I see here when I read this, of course, the eagle, to me that says United States. The eagle's landed. It's doing that. And there was definitely strike, 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 without a doubt. There's been, and this is where I would say Iran has been able to strike us or surrounding countries, Israel, more than any of us in our military thought they even had. So they've been able to respond in a much bigger way. But it's also strike, strike, strike. The other direction, they have been pummeled. And we know so much of this has happened in Iran that when I see that, I'll use the eagle to dig its claw and remove the ancient regime. Well, we've already seen a couple of times the regime's been removed, and we're really not sure who's in charge now.
Yeah, and again, this is what's amazing, and this is where we have to be very wise right now, because it would be very easy for us to think, well, okay, is this just another one of those, nation building? We're going to go in there and it's going to fall flat on their face. They're going to have, some other, dictator rise up or whatever that's going to bring things in reverse. Yeah, that's true when there's certain factors involved, but then when there's the God factor, who has come at a time, there's really, let me just say it to you this way, Gene. There is something that has touched the heart of God at this time that I don't think people really understand, and it's Exodus 1:23, where there comes a time when the cry of the oppressed come up into the ears, and it says, into the ears of the Lord Sabaoth. It didn't say the Lord, even though it's talking about the Lord, but it expressively says his divine attribute of the Lord of angel armies, the Lord of war. When the Pope says what he said, he's misinformed. There are times that God steps into a moment to rescue the oppressed, especially his people, when there are tyrants and pharaohs that have oppressed the people. So God is saying, look, I am giving the United States certain authority that is delegated by the adjudication backed by the court of heaven to deal to bring war, to bring conflict, to transition not only Iran, but the Middle East and the nation so that we can come into the new. And there will be a new regime that rises. What we have to always remember is whenever God deals, he takes away the old to establish the new. Sometimes there is that which tries to rise up as the Ishmael. It tries to rise up as the counterfeit. It tries to rise up with that which man does to try to help God. And that's what I'm praying, that President Trump, Pete Hegseth, the vice president, the cabinet, that when they're working and trying to get this moving in the right direction of Renaissance, that they don't try to make something happen that is not in the right timing or the wisdom and framework of what God wants. We don't need an Ishmael here. We need who God is leading. And we're going to look at a prophecy before the night is up, Gene, that talks about a woman that's going to rise in Iran. And before we end the show, man, we owe it to God and the people to share that, because she's going to be part of the framework of what God wants, not in the Ishmael, but in the Renaissance of the manifestation of the new for Iran. And here's the other thing. It's called the Middle East because God is using a play of words. The veils that came off with the women's faces that the Lord prophesied years ahead of time, we've already shared those before on Flashpoint, is a sign that just like the veil was torn in two when Jesus brought a Renaissance, right, the new covenant, the same thing of this Renaissance is God is taking the Middle East and he is breaking strongholds, Persia, right? He is breaking certain regimes and tearing them down so that he can open it up for Renaissance. So this is very, very important, what we're seeing as we're moving towards the new.
Yeah.
I'd like to read something.
Hold that thought. We got to take a break. We come back. We're going to pick right back up on this, but we're also going to talk about the rededication of America. Is it possible? It was prophesied before. If we're going to find that, so much more. Don't go away. This show is flying by. We'll be right back after this.
Throne Room Prophecy by Pastor Hank Kuhneman is a timely and powerful guide for believers who want to hear God clearly in uncertain times. As a trusted prophetic voice seen on Flashpoint, Pastor Hank equips readers to discern true and false prophecy and to speak prophetic words with precision and accuracy. Get your copy today at fparmy.com.
Hey, Texas, join the Flashpoint Army on Friday, July 24th at 7 p.m. for a one-night event at New Beginnings Church in Bedford, Texas. Join Gene Bailey and his guests, Larry Huck, Lorenzo Sewell, Hank Kuhneman, Miles Rutherford, John Amonchukwu, and Andrew and Nolene Cedra. Go to fparmy.com/events to register for this free one-night event.
The thing I like about Flashpoint is that it's not just a show, it's actually a community of people. The Flashpoint Army is a very real thing. I love how Brother Gene will just activate the Army. It's smart, it's of a different spirit. People are radically in love with the Lord. It's for people who love the truth. And then, as things start happening, the Army gets activated. I love Flashpoint.
And we love you too, Troy Brewer. Great stuff. Listen, you saw the break, Throne Room Prophecy. Get your copy. Go online right now, fparmy.com. It's right there on the homepage. Click the link, and you'll be able to get that. Again, Flashpoint Army chapters. If you want to know more information, go to the website, fparmychapters.com, so you can pick up all the latest. I do want to remind what I said earlier in the show. Flashpoint is on 5 nights a week. 5, Monday through Friday, same time. So if you ever don't see us, I know Victory Channel at times interrupts us and will air some of their programming. You can always find Flashpoint somewhere. We are always broadcasting somewhere. You can go to fparmy.com/media. You can find us there. Or you can always, the real easy way is to go to the network site fptn.com, and it's streaming right there. And, of course, the app. Like I said at the top of the show, I just want to make sure you guys do that. Last time we were they aired something else. You thought we did something. We didn't do this. It's their prerogative, and they give us they're friends. They can do what they want. So we just need you to know how you can watch Flashpoint. So do that. All right. So, Pastor Hank, I'm going to speed us along here because I want to make sure. I was reading this one. This is number 7, guys. The roar of the lion over Iran. This is the time I've declared I shall come to the nations who have been like prodigal nations who have walked away. I speak of you, United States. I'm listening, I'm watching, I'm skipping around here. And I'm waiting for the day that you gather with me to rededicate yourself. Now, I think that's very interesting, Pastor Hank. And I know this was in February. I don't know if it had been determined at that point that May 17th was President Trump decided that was the day of rededication of America back to God. But boy, it sure fits an amazing time that we're living in, that we do need to come back to God in a big way. We've been a prodigal, which it's hard to believe that's been America, but that's what we've been doing.
Gene, I hate to use the word huge, but it's going to be huge. And there is a previous prophecy even to that one, whether that, I don't remember when Trump announced it. But I will say this, there is a documented prophecy that God even says that President Trump would be used to rededicate the nation back to God. And when that was said at that time, we had some hate mail. Oh, he's a heathen, he's this, he's that. So next time I'm on, I think before May 17th, we need to pull that prophecy out and let the Flashpoint Army see it. I don't remember when it was, but it was like a couple of years ago where the Lord said that he would literally be part of rededicating the nation back to God. It might even have been earlier than that. But the point is, this is the first time in history. Gene, I used to be invited to do like Washington for Jesus, Philadelphia for Jesus, right. And it was always us, crying out to God. But this is the first time that I have known of a leader in the United States of America that has gathered with its people for the sole purpose of rededication of the nation back to God. And what that means is God is going to take it very serious. And there is going to be some very, very incredible things from God that is going to be released for the good of the nation, and it's going to be detriment to the enemy. There's a judgment that it will open on the heads of the enemy. Isaiah 42:13, God will go forth as a mighty man of war. He'll stir up his zeal, and he will prevail against his enemies. And you're going to see things heightened to a point after that to carry us through 26, which is really to set us up for 27 and 28, to where there's a breather, there's a refreshing as we're getting ready to transition again. This is why the midterms are so important coming up. We cannot now give the enemy any ground. It's very wise that we get out and we watch and pray. Okay, we have people that say, well, I'm praying. No, you need to watch. Part of watching is active. It's called voting. It's called getting involved, right? Looking for ways to make your vote count, your voice be heard, and your feet, to help to, create a movement so that things cannot take root in our country, in our schools, and the list goes on. But I think it's tremendous. So I'll let you lead the way. Go ahead.
All right. I'm thinking, Pastor Hank, I know we have so much more, but we're like 20-something minutes before the end of the show. What if we play this video of the woman rising up? You think it's now a good time to show that?
I'd like that.
All right. Watch this.
Sure, I'd like it. Let's
watch it.
And I speak, as I have said before, of the veils that have been upon the women. But look to Iran. Once again, the spirit of Esther shall arise. And it shall arise upon one and upon many who shall carry the spirit of freedom, liberty, expression. And they shall stand for the matters of the kingdom of God. But this one I speak. Iran, they will say, is this once again being revisited in our nation? that a woman will arise who will gain great power, authority, voice, and strength. And this one shall be filled with great compassion and wisdom. Enter beauty, but natural beauty shall draw men to look upon her face. Yet she will speak in a manner that is not of the earth's wisdom. But I have appointed this woman to arise at this time. And the men and the new that shall arise over you, Iran, shall strangely open their arms to her. And they will say, we cannot stand in that which rests upon her. For this is not the work of Allah. This is that of the Christ whom we have known. And she will be filled with oil of gladness. And there shall be a balm placed within her hands. And it is and shall be known as the balm, the healing balm of my hand that shall be placed in her hands, to bring something that would seek to arise once again in Iran. But I have struck it in the natural. You've seen it with your eyes, and it's not done. But it will be, you will see revealed. It has been shaken, dismantled. I speak of Persia, its spirit thereof. And this one, with the spirit of Esther, shall reach out to a new leader and leadership that'll arise, that will bring great healing and restoration and rebuilding, not only to the nation of Iran, but the Middle East, that will cause a crackling, a breaking, a dismantling of other regimes. And you will say, what is this that is happening? This is so strange that the Middle East is being unveiled. Remember, I am the God in my resurrection that tore the veil in the middle. And this is what I'm doing over the Middle East. And this one, with the spirit of Esther and healing in her hands, will cause a strange peace, agreements, alignments, and a building of something that is crooked. And I will make it, I speak of the straits. I did not say straight, says the Spirit of God. Straits, for there will be a new thing that shall arise. And I will cause a river to flow throughout desert land that will accelerate and explode the economic trade, currency, and flow.
Wow, Hank, that was amazing. Amazing. Break that down for us.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I got to just tell on myself just for a moment. You know, Gene, that was a day that I had walked up and I was like, Lord, it'd be really nice if I could just, you know, kind of go a different direction, because I was feeling the presence of the Lord coming on me, and I kind of had felt that He was, you know, going to speak, and it had been kind of a really crazy week, right? So I wasn't expecting God to use the vessel here in utterance. But then the presence was so strong, Gene, I could hardly stand. And I know you're familiar with when God will come on your life at different times. Absolutely. But it was so strong I couldn't move. And then all of a sudden I don't want to sound strange, but God knows I'm telling the truth. I was there. I was standing in a place as if I felt as though in the spirit realm I was there in this moment where I saw this woman, and I literally saw her face to face. I believe I would recognize her if I saw her. I believe that I was able to see, she had an outward beauty, but an inward beauty. But what was upon her, she was clothed with such a grace. And think about this, there has been a war since Genesis 3:15 between the seed of thy woman and, of course, the enemy. And look at how through Sharia law and the Muslim regimes, how they have raped the women, abused the women, mistreated the women, right? Treated them and dragged them around. And I think God is saying enough of this. I'm going to absolutely slam it back in the face of the Prince of Persia and anybody else who have mishandled and misappropriated women. And I'm going to raise one up that's not only going to liberate the women, but it's going to liberate the men, and it's ultimately going to liberate Iran, and it's going to liberate and be used where other nations are going to come and listen to this woman's wisdom, influence, compassion, power, and strength. And it's God that is on her, but yet she's going to have such an ability to gather people in a peaceful, healing way that is going to be part of a rebuilding. And did you notice the word that the Lord said there also about straits? There was a previous word that happened where God said, that the Lord is anointed to take the crooked places and make them straight. And God said the straits, talking about the waterways there, have been crooked, right? So he's playing off of words, using a biblical example to help us understand. The straits, what's the name of that strait, Gene?
Strait of Hormuz.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry. I don't remember how to pronounce it. I apologize. But the point is, it's a major waterway. And God is saying, I'm going to take that crooked thing. Iran has been having their hold on it. They have been mishandling things, manipulating certain things. President Trump has said, no, we're not putting up with this, because he's taken the crooked thing and he's straightening it out. But then did you notice something also the Lord said? He said, I'm not speaking just of one strait. I'm not speaking of it in a singular sense. I'm talking straits. And can I bring a river through the desert? And Gene, I'm telling you, I saw it with my eyes. Not only did I see this woman arise, and I saw the nations coming together, and it was like nothing we'd ever seen before. And again, I want to just say to the people, don't you think for a moment that it's the strange peace that's going to lead to sudden destruction. That's not the era of this Renaissance. That's not what God is doing right now, right? But what I saw was, it was almost like they were making a canal or something through what looked like the desert to create even a greater, like, I don't know if you call it a strait or a greater waterway and flow of all of this traffic of the earth's trade. And it literally opened up something of Renaissance that was new, that had to do with global currency, the gold standard, silver. I saw it, and I literally saw, Gene, that the pressure that had been upon the world regarding some of the things that have been at the hands of barbaric leaders that have oppressed the people that have spilled out over the nation was broken. This is why when people look at President Trump, they need to be careful. Why is the enemy using 90-some% of the fake news to lie? Because that's the spirit of the devil. He is the liar. He's the accuser of the brethren. There's no truth in him. And so the enemy is very aware of what this vessel and other vessels are seeing prophetically, and he's scared. So he wants you to believe the false narratives and discount that which heaven is saying. But I'm telling you, we're being set up for this, and you're going to start seeing some of these things begin to play out. We need to keep our eyes. There's going to be a volcanic eruption coming up pretty soon here. I saw this, and it erupted, and when it did, God was saying, all right, this is the point now that things have reached a certain level that it's going to fill the sky. You're going to see it. You're going to hear about it. And know that the justice of God is coming at a whole nother level. And you will see, and the Lord is saying, increase the level of prayers, because the level of prayers is going to increase the amount and the level of prosecution and arrests that are going to begin to erupt, just like this volcano. So we are heading towards all of these things. And the key is stay out of fear, stay out of the deceptive side of things, which doesn't represent the perspective of God. And watch what the Lord is going to do to where you're going to say, Matthew 9:33, we have never so seen this before in our life, in this nation, that nation, or the earth. It's the God factor.
Okay, so Pastor Hank, you know, I know people are watching and they're going, they're trying to figure it out. I think that's human nature. You hear a prophetic word.
Yeah, I understand.
You're trying to figure out, okay, so who's this woman? How is there something going on in the desert with the river? And, you know, what is our responsibility at this point? And you said we need to pray. Is that our responsibility after this word? What is it? And I know you talk about it in your book, but I need you to tell people again, what is their responsibility after hearing this word? What do we do now?
Okay, that is a great question, Gene. You're a great host, by the way. I think you're the best. But the point is, I look at this, and Jesus said something in Matthew 24 regarding the signs of the time, and he was prophesying. I mean, when he was saying there's going to be earthquakes in various places and things, he was prophesying. He was also speaking into end-time events, but he also talked about stay out of speculation. Because he said, when you hear them saying, oh, Christ, lo, he's over there, he said, don't go. Don't get into speculation. Don't get into hearsay. Don't try to get into, in your brain and try to make it happen or figure it out. You got to let it happen. So to answer your question, 1 Timothy 1:18, I think is a great reminder for all of us. It keeps us from shipwrecking our faith. It keeps our minds from being attacked. It says, wage a good warfare by the prophecies that you have been given, that by those prophecies you may, watch this, hold faith, right? Not get in fear and get all, into anxiety and all that and wigged out. Hold faith and a good conscience. In other words, you're not going to allow your conscience to get seared by the culture and the contrary voices, right? And it's important how you wage war. You take what God says not only out of the written word, right, and you decree it, you pray it, you speak it, but then you take from certain vessels that God is using in the earth, like Jesus taught, know them by their fruits. They're rooted and they're fruited, right? It's not just something that springs up overnight because they had one, prophetic dream where they saw something with President Trump or whatever, and now they're the sensation. Well, are they, what's their fruit? How long have they been doing this? And where are they rooted? Right? What are they rooted in? What doctrine? What, who are they connected to? What's their journey of their prophetic fruit? And so you take those words, you pray them, you speak them, and you do what you're doing, Gene. You rehearse them before the people. And the reason, so that people can come to faith, but also come to action. Do something with those words. Speak them, rehearse them, pray them, and then with great expectancy, watch for their manifestation after we've done the other things like praying and speaking and declaring and binding up the enemy.
All right, so that's our job. That's what we need to do. All right, I think we have time probably for one more. Number 38, guys.
Sure.
God bringing reform and renaissance to counter the enemy and heal the oppressed. I'll skim it here. This was April 14th, so just a few days ago. Not so. As you see, the time is that you're in. Do not fear the battles, the conflicts, the things that would seem to be yet again another war, as some have used as a proverb in the earth. Not so. This is the power of my hand that is bringing things to a place of only of reform, not only of reform, but a place of renaissance, a place of the new. And I'm declaring a new season now upon the generation that exists and even a generation to come. And what I'm going to do is to show the earth that I've come to answer the cry of the afflicted, the oppressed, the harassed, those who are burdened, those who have been affected by demonic entities, political systems, and governments. I'm bringing this sound to raise up something new that men would stand, and they will see the blessing of God who stands in the earth to bring the new. As I was reading that, Pastor Hank, I'm the cry of the afflicted, the oppressed, the harassed. I'm thinking of everybody who has been, it's hard to compare being canceled in the media with being slaughtered in Nigeria for your faith. But what that whole part right there covers all of the spectrum there, whether you've just been abused or people that have become martyrs. This is, God's not forgetting, is he?
No, and I think that sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we only look at the manifestation of what the enemy is doing, that we often don't discern what God is doing. And right now, I'm telling you, there was a moment for 400 years that the people, cried out in the reason of their bondage. Like I said, Exodus 1, verse 23. But then there was a moment where it said God remembered. And he remembered because the people forgot something, that God had to do the God factor. God had to step in. Even though they were crying out and they were saying, Lord, we're oppressed. When are you going to deliver us? They forgot something, that God ultimately said, okay, if I keep letting you do this, you're crying out, you're not getting results. So I'm going to step in my sovereignty, and I'm going to step in the God factor. I am Exodus 14:14. I'm the Lord of the fight. That's why it says in Exodus 1:23 that it came into the ears of the Lord Sabaoth, the Lord of angel armies. God said, all right, now I'm going to pick a fight. I am coming at this time. The nation and the people, you're forgetting something. And can I tell you what it was that God remembered? It said he remembered his covenant that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, let's hold this thought for just a moment. 1 Kings 18, what was it that ultimately took out the false fake news of Elijah's day with the false prophets of Baal? It was when the prophet Elijah stood up and he said, you are the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. What did he do? He reminded God of covenant, and immediately, Gene, the fire fell. Now, let's fast forward to May 17th. You have a president now and the people that are coming together, and they're saying, God, we are reminding you not only of your covenant through Jesus Christ, our Lord, you are God. We are a Christian nation, but watch this. The covenants that George Washington and the others made with this nation, when we put God in remembrance of those things, I'm telling you, you're going to see a deliverance to the harshness that has been oppressing the people. And you're also going to see the glory and the fire fall just like with Elijah. This is where we're heading in this Renaissance new. So don't get caught up in the war, conflicts. Watch the grace of transition that's setting us up for a new hour and generation. And by the way, it's Psalm 24. There is a generation that will seek his face. And I think it's Gen Z, the millennials, they're showing us that we are all heading towards this beautiful renaissance with God.
Wow, so good. Pastor Hank, would you take 2 or 3 minutes here and kind of wrap this up in prayer, seal it?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, first of all, Father, I want to thank you for Gene Bailey, and I want to thank you for Flashpoint and Flashpoint Army. I declare again, may your anointing, your wisdom, your favor, Father, rest upon Gene, upon the assignment that has been given to him by you, the Lord of the church, to rally a people and to gather a nation, Father, at the time of your renaissance. And I ask you now, God, that the enemies of darkness, those who have raised their hand and their fist and they have mocked you, and they have sought to try to remove your name, your presence, your power, Lord, your manifestation, and even the expression of thy word and thy spirit from this land, I am asking you now to prevail greatly over your enemies. And I am asking you to arise and let your enemies be scattered. And this I pray, I do not pray just for the United States, but I pray for the nations of the earth. Bring the divine resets and reversals. Bring the renaissance that you've promised. And lastly, I pray for the beautiful people who have suffered harshness. You have heard their cries. You have seen their afflictions. God, the time has come now where we would have despaired unless we had believed to see your goodness in the land that we live, in our lives. And therefore, as the Father ran towards the prodigal, I'm asking you, run to us, God, and cause your kiss to rest upon us of a new season, a new day, a renaissance that shifts us from the conflicts and the wars and transition us through grace into a new season. This I pronounce upon the earth and upon the people.